Hey, Push People. So I'm going to go through a couple of answers from last week's Module 11. I'm seeing some stuff that I really don't like on this assignment. I know this stuff seems hard, guys. I know you guys are spending a lot of time on it, but please do it right because it's setting you up for next week when you're doing the DBQ. And I want us just to make sure that we're doing this right. So let me go through a few responses from last week, and then I'm going to go through this one. And please pay close attention. All right. Don't do the direct instruction and then do something completely different in the independent practice. Let's do this the right way. So here's the first one. This is from last week, Change in Ideas About Emancipation from the Civil War. There are three documents here. All right. We have Abraham Lincoln. We have a former slave who's fighting on the side of the United States. And then we have the 13th Amendment. Now, guys, I would use the 13th Amendment, and so I would use document C, and I would use document B or A. I actually think B is slightly easier, but a lot of people used A, and maybe that's because it was coming up from the front. So you notice that this person, they don't actually explain using outside information what document A is really about or how it answers the prompt, right? It says change in ideas about emancipation. It brought troops for the war, and this is present in Doc A and B. Okay, so first off, I don't like this because you're smashing two documents together. You're supposed to just use one at a time. And you can tell that where the slaves got freedom and went to fight for the Union because they were promised freedom, I think this means B, not A, right? The purpose of Doc A was to recruit the African Americans to fight for them. Yes, that is actually part of Doc A, but if we look at Doc A really closely, right, that this, what Lincoln is saying, right? He's saying you can't make slaves free yet. This is in 1862. He's saying, look, there's a general who's trying to make slaves free. You can't do that. He hasn't passed the Emancipation Proclamation yet. That's when he's going to make slaves free, but he's not willing to do it yet. So if you analyze document A, you had to say he was going to make slaves free, but he didn't do it yet. And that's where you get that continuity and change. At the beginning of the war, he wasn't going to make the slaves free. By the midpoint of the war, he made the slaves free in the South. And by the end of the war, the slaves are free in the entire country. And that's the 13th Amendment. So A is beginning, B is middle, when these troops are fighting on our side, on the U.S. side, and saying we should be free because we're fighting for you. And then at the end, it's when they're all free. So this is a poor answer, right? I mean, the thing here that I don't mind about this organized part, Doc C, they get their freedom, right? But it's like they get their freedom everywhere. The Emancipation Proclamation only freed them in the South. So let me show you another answer that still is missing. Like, this is a very weak answer. All right, this isn't really telling us about anything. This would make my paper reliable. This is like old world history stuff. This is not the way to do this. Doc A, because it was too long. I don't mind this so long for remove. The only reason I brought this up is, hey, for remove, you can say, look, it was too long. I didn't have enough time. That's okay. I don't mind doing that. But these two do not work. We're not using any outside information. We're not contextualizing. We're not really looking at audience purpose or point of view. Now, this one is getting closer, right? He freed the slaves in the South in order to get more troops. This was written to the slaves in the South to inform them they were now free. This is the right idea. It's just incorrect. If we look at document A, he's actually not freeing them yet. All right? And at the end of the Civil War, and in theory, they're given equal rights, should not be discriminated against. I would love if this person used the 14th Amendment to add on to the 13th Amendment. And this remove is fine. So this is getting closer. And then I actually think this was one of the stronger ones that I saw, right? Lincoln, right? The development of the Emancipation Proclamation to change from unifying the states to trying to abolish slavery. So they're getting really close here, though I wish they'd actually mentioned this is document A. And he's saying Lincoln in document A wanted to unify the states. But as the war is going to go on, he's going to go and he's going to want to free the slaves. And so document A, he's not quite there yet. Document C would work as well, right? Eventually, we're going to abolish slavery. So we're going from trying to solve debates, which is basically let's get more troops on our side, let's encourage slaves in the South to leave, to the idea that they should be free. And then B, I think this is a really strong answer. Like the slave's experience maybe doesn't answer our question so well, though I do think you could use document B to say, hey, this is why people wanted to give the slaves freedom ultimately, because they were really brave soldiers. So just to wrap this up, if we go and we look, if we actually look at what I'm asking you guys to do, in the analyze section, you have to add outside information. Okay? In the organized section, right, you're going to transition to it. Okay? Historical context, you still have to have outside information. You don't have to do audience purpose point of view, but you have to transition. And then finally, the remove, we're doing pretty well with this. This is pretty straightforward. Okay? You just have to explain why you're not doing it. So let me show you one more example of how to do this. Okay? I'm going to look at this prompt. Okay, so I'm looking for stuff about the debate between Hamilton and Jefferson. We looked at this in Module 13. All right? What are their visions and how are their visions reflected in the development of the United States? Right? So basically you're saying which one won and which one lost between 1780 and 1840. This is an older DBQ prompt. It would be harder to fit it into causation, comparison, or continuity and change. But if I was going to choose one, it's probably comparison. It's sort of like, okay, what's the difference? What are the differences between Jefferson and Hamilton? What are some of the similarities? And then like kind of what are the differences and similarities in terms of how the U.S. developed? So analyze. I'm looking for the document that I really want to get deepest into. And when I just skim these and I look at the titles, like I think I have to go after Jefferson because I have to really explain things and like explain what the difference is between them. So I look at Jefferson. People in Europe have said every state should manufacture for itself. Okay, so they should make their own stuff to send to other countries. We have a ton of land. Should our citizens be employed in its improvement, or that one half should be called off to exercise manufactures? Okay, I think this is like a rhetorical question because he's saying those who labor in the earth are the chosen people of God. So if we remember back, Jefferson doesn't want us to manufacture stuff. He doesn't want factories. He's like, we have tons of land. Let's not work at a workbench. Let's not work at a factory. Let's let Europe work, right? We're going to lose some money because we won't have factories, but we're going to be super happy because remember, Jefferson's like, we're going to be free. We're going to be independent. No one's going to have a boss. We're all going to have small farms. So this is the one I'm going to analyze. And I'm just going to say, I'm going to go back to the prompt, okay, and say, in the 1780s, after the Revolutionary War, no one wanted to have a boss anymore after experiences with British taxation. Jefferson's idea during the Articles of Confederation was that the federal government would be weak and everyone would have access to new land through taking over Western land. When he became president, he did the Louisiana Purchase to get this land. Okay, so this is kind of my context, and then I'm going to go real briefly. I already described this. The purpose of this passage is to explain why we need more land, not factories, and not a bigger or new federal government. Boom. Okay, now I want to throw in another doc that kind of ties into this basic idea. And it's the basic idea is like, did things turn out for Jefferson? So this one here, This one, it says early factory labor, Lowell Mills, her life. Okay, Lowell Mill Girls. Whoa, how am I going to tie that into Jefferson? That's going to actually be kind of hard, and it's kind of long. Whereas document 2 is like really short, and it's just a chart. I don't quite know what the chart's about yet, but I'm going to remove document 3 will be removed because it's longer, it's a letter, and it will be about factory girls, not about getting new land or expanding to the west and using it. Okay, now let's look at document 2. Document 2, we see, oh man, okay, we get a lot more railroad and canals in the northern states, New England, than we do in the Midwestern states. We could call these the middle colonies. They're going out to the Midwest though, so it's really, we're saying like Ohio and Michigan and Wisconsin, all that area. And then the southern states, okay, this is super interesting, right? Southern states have very little railroads, but even by 1840, they have some railroads, they have some canals. So I actually really like this one, right? This, and so we're gonna say document 2. Okay, and let me go back up here. Passage in document 1 is to explain what I need. Document 2 exhibits, well, and that's just like show. Document 2, and oh yeah, and I don't have to do audience purpose point of view here, right? Okay, that's right, with organize. Okay, document 2 happens in the 1830s and 1840s. The American system is allowing the states to increase their railroads and canals against what Jefferson wants. In the South, they are continuing to not have factories, and we can tell that by how little railroads and canals they have. Jefferson's vision is not coming true in most of the US, and Hamilton's ideas of a stronger federal government are coming true, but in the South, they are still Jeffersonians, and we could also call them anti-feds or Democrats. Boom. All right. We have tied in document 2 with document 1, and then we're removing document 3. Boom. All right, guys, do a good job on these, and I'm only asking you to do 2 this week. So do a good job on both of them. 2 of them. All right. Have a good rest of your week, and remember, next week, AP test. We're getting really close. All right, thanks.